It's weird because when flowers die, what do you bring them?
Hold on. Are we rolling? That's a clip right there, isn't it? Start with that. When flowers die, what do you bring them?
Yeah.
That's a great question. What do you bring people when do you bring flowers when people die, Ian?
I do, and sweets.
And sweets.
Yeah, they're for me. And depends how much I like the
To eat
person.
them and be like, your mum would have loved these.
Yeah, and depends on whether I like the person or not as to what kind of sweets I bring.
What sweets would you bring if you're happy with the death?
Then sort of a sherbet fizz kind of.
Sherbet fizz.
Yeah, something with a fizz inside it, so you get it. Way.
I see.
If I don't like them, then it's licorice all sorts because they're shit.
If you don't like them, it's a licorice all sorts.
Yeah.
I see.
Or I don't know if you have them over here. What are they called? It's bag of sweets, and each one is different.
A lolly bag.
No. It's a specific. It's called
party mix.
No. It's
Jesus.
it's actual. Fucking, this is driving me mental. So one of them will be coffee flavored, and the next one will be honeycomb, and the next one, but they're all the same shape, so you've no idea what's going into your mouth. I think Revels. I think they are.
Revels.
Yeah.
It's a revelation. I've never heard of them myself.
Ooh,
Thank you.
from the Book of Revelation.
Revels.
Go forth and eat shit sweets.
When someone's dead. Ian
Yeah.
Coppinger, good to be with you.
Have we started?
We're on. We're rolling. We're in.
Okay, good. Hello, let's start again.
We just kind of hit the ground running, and people assume we've been yarning for many a moon. But it's good to be with you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We gigged together. We've only just recently met, but we gigged together on the New Year's Eve gig just past.
Yes.
We honed in the new year together. It was a pleasure.
It was lovely.
It was like a 3.5 hour gig, and you had a raucous set. You were the first
I was
headliner,
second
we should
on.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
after
great.
jail, and we had 3 drunk women who had to leave.
Now,
Unfortunately.
walk me through that, because I was hosting that night. I didn't do a good job of clocking sort of the drunk women. They didn't interact with me much. But
No,
then
they
as soon as the acts came out, they seemed to sort of pick it up.
They were fine. There was just a level of drunkenness, and they were just a little bit chatty. But it just meant when I was looking out at the room, I could just see all the people in front of them and all the people behind them sort of staring at them. So it had to be addressed. So I just politely asked them to be quiet.
Yeah.
But Johnny was already onto them. Johnny from the club here was onto them, and they then during my set got the biggest round of applause when they left.
They gracefully exited.
They did. And fair play to them, because they realised they were in the wrong spot, and that's okay. We've all made mistakes.
We have, and I have to credit you, because in those moments, it's always difficult as a comic to sort of address. Do you roast them? Do you sort of let them off the hook? But your line, I thought, was perfection. You said, "Shame, I thought I was in there."
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
You got it.
And I got a massive applause. Like, that's exactly how you do it.
Well, it's always an awkward moment because the audience, they're kind of delighted to see the back of them, but ultimately it's 3 young women who are having to leave a room on New Year's Eve, and it's not nice. So I don't like doing it, but literally they made their own decision and they left. But yeah, you just got to say something that isn't really offensive, but addresses the issue. We can all have a laugh and move on.
It was a professional move, and I admired it.
Well, I'm a long time doing this. So
tell us about it. How long have you been going in?
Since 1842.
1842.
I started.
My goodness, when the Batavia went down, you were just doing in the open mic scene.
I was just standing in Dublin in between the troubles with the British.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I used to stand there telling jokes in between little
Trying
fights.
to appease both sides.
Yeah, just, I'd do them in Irish for the Irish audience and in English for the British audience. And I've been doing it a long time. I don't like even thinking about how long I've been doing it.
Of course.
Because it's ridiculously long.
Ridiculously
But I started
long.
very young. I did my first ever gig when I was 16.
So about 15 years in, you know what I'm saying?
I like what you did there.
Looking gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's been a long while.
Yeah, I was 16. I was in a double act. So everyone in Ireland was in a U2 cover band. And if you weren't, then there was us. There was me and my mate, Paddy Hickey. And we just basically, we watched a lot of Monty Python. And then it was like the Christmas school show. We went up and written sketches. And we'd asked other fellas to join us. So there was 6 of us in the group initially. And within 4 days before the show, the other 4 backed out and said, we didn't think you were being serious. So we had to rewrite everything 2 days before the show and then go up and do these sketches that we'd written.
Just the 2 of you?
Yeah. And it was really good fun. It was like, I don't know if you have career guidance teachers in schools over here, but basically they just sort of either tell you, in Ireland, to become a priest or work for a bank. That's kind of the options.
Right.
And I had a really nice guy. I can't remember his name now, but there was a knock on the door one day, and just Mr. No, wants to see Ian Coppinger, and I went okay, and I went down, and he handed me videos of Pete and Dud and Monty Python and stuff I'd never seen, and he basically pointed me in the direction of being a comedian.
Wow, and this was after he saw your performance?
Yeah, he just saw the two of us on stage and then said, "Here, I'm a big comedy fan. Look at this. It's Dave Allen. There's Clive, what was his name? Pete and Dud, which was Dudley Moore, and what's his name? Peter Cook."
Right, no Tommy Cooper at that time?
There probably was. I mean, I was familiar with Tommy Cooper. He was kind of more on TV, but the Pete and Dud stuff was very X-rated.
Right, yes, of course. I mean, that almost seems like a crime to give to a minor.
Imagine doing that now. Some
Absolutely.
blokes singing a song about having cancer of the knob.
Where did you get this? A lovely teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, he believes in me.
Yeah, and it was in a Christian Brother school as well. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was really dodgy.
But that's
And then there would have been Dave Allen stuff, which would have been kind of religious sketches as well. So he was kind of, had they have found out he was doing that, he probably would have been in trouble.
You must have been absolutely intoxicating on stage for him to risk career and all
I think he
things
was
to
just
encourage
bored.
you.
I think he realised I didn't have the acumen to become a bank manager, and I didn't have any religious belief to become a priest. So the other option was just go shouting bad language at people for the rest of your life.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Oh, wow,
Still
that's
doing
fantastic. Isn't it interesting how just some early encouragement can shape the direction of your life so often?
Yeah, I think I was destined to do it anyway, but what it did was it gave me license to do it. You know, he opened a door where, like, I was only very young, 16 as I said, so an adult is going, here, you like this. I think back now he's probably only 30 or something at the time.
Yes.
But you're looking at it and going, yeah, you're a man in a suit with a job. You're telling me it's okay. Okay, I can do this.
And that can help you through the early adversities, I think, to have that sort of something just to cling to and say, no, a man in a suit who was strangely fired straight after he gave me these tapes encouraged me. I must be good.
And he let me pet his puppy. And that's not a euphemism. No, of course he didn't. That's not true.
Oh, that's lovely. So
just let me touch his cock. No.
Cocker Spaniel, let him finish.
Yeah.
So you go on with that, and you started with sketch, so because obviously the Monty Python influence. And I noticed you have a history in improv as well. I noted that you have a history in improv as well. So was that the natural progression from sketch to improv?
I don't know if it was the natural progression, but certainly when me and Paddy were writing, we just sort of improvised with each other. That's how the writing was done. And then I think by our second or third ever gig, we started doing some improvisation as a sketch. So, and then shortly after that in Dublin, we started off an improv troupe. It wasn't me who started it. There was another guy, Dermot Bulger, who kind of said, let's do a workshop. And a number of us went along thinking it'll just be a workshop. And it's at a place called the International Bar, where comedy kind of has its roots in Ireland, really. And so we were offered a room there, like a night. And it was a Monday night. And the previous residency on a Monday night had broken the record and lasted 6 weeks. That was the longest running show they had.
I thought it must have been the shortest, but you mean it was
that was the longest residency they'd ever had that lasted on a Monday night, and we're still there 32 years later.
Wow.
We now do the Sunday night. We moved to that after COVID because the Sunday became available, and a much better night now for us, and there's
and
8
it's
of
still
us.
going to this day?
Still going.
What
yeah.
was it again, please? Just share it with some people.
It's very imaginatively entitled the Dublin Comedy Improv.
Dublin Comedy Improv.
And the reason for that is if you Google Comedy Improv in Dublin, our name comes
there,
up.
straight in.
That was it, yeah. It wasn't originally called
Ahead
that.
of the marketing early.
Yeah, and it was Comedy Improv. Before that was Gladys for some reason. And yes, we just changed it to the Comedy Improv. And then one of the women, Tara, who was in the group, she said, let's just call it the Dublin Comedy Improv, because then when people search online, it will make sense. So, fantastic idea. So, yeah.
So what... I myself have never done much improv outside. I have an acting background, but I've never done too much improv in terms of the comedic sense. So what did that teach you? What tools did you think it had that helped you now as a stand-up comic on stage?
I think being an improviser when you're doing stand-up is kind of makes you a little bit fearless, because even like you've got the material, jokes written, material in the back of your head, whatever, but if something happens in the room, like 3 women who were a little bit drunk the other night, I've got something that I know I won't fall down. I can come back with something, no problem.
Yes.
So this sense of self-belief that you know that there's always something else that will come out of your mouth that will be funnier than anything you've ever written, and the audience gets the feeling that you've just made that up. They know, and it exists for that moment only in that room. If you try to repeat improv, it'll never work. So it exists only for that moment, and the audience is part of it. You're part of it. It's disposable. It's gone. And once it's gone, the audience just go away going, that was fantastic, because it'll never happen again. This is why I don't like social media and stuff. People are trying to force themselves onto a platform. It's all fine. It's just not for me. It's a platform that, for me, it's not disposable. And I like disposable comedy because it means that it only exists for that one moment in front of that audience. Like tonight, we're doing 2 shows. Something will happen in the first show that will never happen again. Something will happen in the second show that will never happen again. And I love that about it, because that's, for me, what live comedy is about. It's just those little moments where it just exists for that single audience. So when you do a whole improvised show, like it's a 2-hour-long show that I do, then the whole night is full of those moments.
And would there be any structure to your shows? Is there any checkpoints that you would have, any feelings of safety? Or, I mean, or did you just get very comfortable with the idea that whatever happens and is what's meant to happen?
It's a game-based improv show that I do. So, we'll ask the audience for different film genres or theatre genres, and then we'll act out a scene. Now, we don't know what they're going to shout up, and we ask for a type of job. We don't know what's going to be said. So you don't have any time to think about anything. People think, oh, you must rehearse, and you must that. The worst thing you can do is rehearse, because it doesn't work. You just throw yourself into it. So you're a plumber doing Woody Allen, and you've got to think of puns or jokes that a plumber...
Just looking for your stepdaughter in the crowd, just immediately.
Whatever, yeah.
Wow, okay.
And then then it's romance, and then it's Shakespeare, and, it's whatever. You just don't know what's going to happen. So there are structures insofar as there are games, but we've no idea what the audience is going to say. And then the second half is predominantly a thing that we call meanwhiles. So we just shout out meanwhile, and the audience can say what they want. Checking into a hotel. There you have to do a scene about checking into a hotel. It might be 2 seconds long. It might be 5 minutes long. We have no idea. And I just love that because, again, it's just for those moments. Actually, the opening weekend of this club, Johnny flew over 3 English guys that I improvised with. So Steve Frost, Andy Smart, who's very sadly died a couple of months ago, and Steve Steen. And the 4 of us opened this club. Ben Elton came in to see us because Frosty and Steenie were both in Blackadder, which he co-wrote. So we had a lovely weekend that time.
Oh, that's
the opening show here at the Comedy Lounge.
Well, it speaks to why it's lasted so long in 32 years. I mean, it's the fact that it's always going to be
different group.
I know,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, speaking in terms of the improv as well, I mean, the fact that anything can happen and it's an interactive experience with the audience. I mean, no one has lasted because it's constantly going to be fresh.
It's a hard show to sell because you're basically doing the same show every week, but it's always different every week. So you're trying to convince people going, and then we get a regular audience. People come along, not every week, but like they'll come a lot, and they will see going, oh Christ, this is completely different. And you're going, yeah.
And holding you accountable if you ever want to phone it in and...
Yeah, you can't phone it in.
Yeah, the structure doesn't allow.
Well, the problem is that when you try to do something, and you know that this yourself from stand-up, if you try to reincorporate an ad-lib that you've already done before, there's a second doubt in your mind. And during that doubt, the timing goes off. And then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then the rest of your gig is doubting yourself. So you can never recreate the moment of improv because that's what it is.
So when did you eventually transition from improv? I mean, you are doing stand-up comedy. You're just working, I suppose, just a slightly different muscle or medium. When do you start writing material and performing as a solo act?
Basically, Paddy decided he didn't want to do the double act anymore, and he was moving to Canada. And I had left my job, so I had to do it. Never wanted to be a stand-up, never thought I could be a stand-up. And then I was doing characters originally, and then I thought, like, for every joke that I write about this character is kind of the opposite of me. There's more jokes about me that I can't be writing. So, and then I was a one-liner comedian for so long. Everything I did was just one-liners, so I had 20 minutes of one-liners. And then I started realizing a lot of these one-liners are interconnected. They've got the same subject matter. Therefore, you can create a routine. And then, like, I started just writing routines and this, that, and the other. And then I've written stories. Some of them, like one of them takes about a half an hour.
So you're spanning across the styles.
Yeah,
almost.
totally.
You're doing the one-liners and then the storytelling and improv. I mean, you you're not allowed to do that, Ian. I don't know if you know, but
I'm banned in most countries.
I understand, and I'm gonna work hard to get you banned here.
I should be banned in Australia.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because there's only a few people I know who can do stand-up and improv. It's not something that people can cross over very easily. And there's only a handful of people. Like, there's a few people within the Dublin improv that I do, like Joe Rooney and Sharon Mannion and Paul Tylak and myself all do both. But there's very, very few. Adam Hills is actually very good at both.
Australian Adam Hill.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, Adam is... he's one of my good mates. I'm his daughter's godfather.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've known Adam for a long
You really
time.
admire his improv abilities.
Yeah. So, yeah, his daughter Bibi is my... He's given her 3 comedy godfathers. So
Beautiful.
Dom Herrera in America. There's Dave Gorman in England, and I'm her Irish comedy godfather.
Spanning across.
So if ever she goes travelling, she has someone to look after.
She's safe.
Yeah, which is weird because I met her in Glastonbury a couple of years ago, and she's like 10 or 12 now, and she just doesn't want to know me. She wants to go.
She's in her
nuts.
Dom Herrera phase.
Yeah, she's
yeah. It'll pass, Ian. It'll pass.
You're
She'll
not
come
Dom.
back around. Well, I wanted to know as well. I mean, so you start doing the stand-up, and for someone who was addicted to the now, I mean, I suppose you could come up loving the fact that anything can happen and it's always fresh. Does stand-up ever feel stale? Does it ever feel repetitive?
Yeah, I think it can do, and that's your own fault. That depends how much you want to write and, throw out the same stuff. And I'm very guilty of not writing new material all the time, but you become complacent, and there's some material that you really like doing. It's like, your favourite car or something you want to drive, and I say that as somebody who doesn't drive, but, you just don't want to get rid of it because it works well. And I've got, like you've seen me over here, I've got a lot of Australian material. I don't do that anywhere else in the world. I can't do that. So I enjoy coming over here, and I haven't said those words in 9-10 months or something. Yes. And then you get up, you go, oh yeah, I used to do that thing. Oh, fine, add that in and throw that in. And so yeah, just for me, it's like I'm here, not on holidays, I am working here, but it feels like I'm on a bit of a holiday, and you get to do the things that you do on holiday, and some of them are material that I just don't get to do anywhere else in the world.
And breathe fresh life into it.
Yeah, but I love doing crowd work. I mean, one of my favourite things to do is comparing, because I go up with the challenge of not doing any material at all.
Ah, so you can just work, and the pressure's not on you. You're just here to facilitate, get to know the audience, and
just
get them all connected.
Do the crowd work, and that's one of my favourite things. There's a club in London, the Comedy Store. It's one of my favourite venues, along with this. And just when you do that crowd, they've got a bigger front row, so you could just pick on everybody in the front row, and that you do not have to do a joke that whole night.
Wow. In
fact, there's one night, I was there only a while ago, and there was just 2 guys. One of them had a shark tooth in a bag.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, and the whole night was just spent on how weird he was. And he could take it. He was as weird as he was. Do you want to pet the shark tooth? And the whole gig just became very strange. People sent me messages afterwards on Instagram, just I was there that night, it was amazing. And I can't even remember what was said. That's what I mean, disposable comedy. Yes. But I just love those moments. I walked out one night and there was a couple, the first people I spoke to, I said, what do you do? And he was an optician. And they said, what do you do? And she said, I'm a teacher. And I said, so you both look after pupils? And you get moments like that. And then I just look at the audience going, that's it, go home. It's not going to get any better than that.
Yeah,
it's finished, good night. And I get the sound guy to play the music, and I walk off and I just love fucking around like that, because the audience can see that has just never happened.
And it's never going to happen again.
And people will think you knew they were there. They were planted. You go, no. And I asked one guy once, I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an arms dealer. And I just went, prosthetics. And even the guy who runs the club said, you'd said that before. And I was going, no. You just don't know where it comes from. It's out of your mouth before you realise what you said.
Yes.
And that's the joy of improv.
Well, I want to know as well, because you talk about your writing process and that you're sometimes guilty of not writing. Do you write? What is your process? Do you write sometimes from the crowd where you think, oh, that's a great subject matter, I'm going to go more into
I never
that?
used to write anything down. I only recently started writing jokes down after COVID, because I'd forgotten some stuff. But for 20 odd years, I'd never actually sat down and written. So I just walk along the street thinking of stuff, and I go, I'll say that tonight.
Wow. And so how would you keep track of your things? It would just be innate.
Just in the back of your head. So it's like putting together a bit of Lego. That goes there, that goes there, that goes there, and then that can go there. Yeah, and then you think, but it was all just done in my head. And then I had to do an online gig, and I just was going, oh Christ, I haven't done stand up in about a year.
Oh, this was a Zoom
It was a
gig?
Zoom gig,
I
and I
see.
went, oh no. So I actually typed it up so I could read it. So I was just doing the gig, just reading it. But then I sort of went, I better just type the rest. And then I was messaging different sound guys that I know because I'd forgotten some of my jokes. And I was going, do you remember how I used to get into this routine? They go, oh, I think you used to say something about Chewbacca.
Something about a shark tooth, Ian.
Something
You
about a
would go
shark
into-
tooth, yeah. So, yeah, you just sort of... now I sit down and I make myself sit down and write stuff.
Right. And have you found that process to be rewarding? I suppose when you have the base of nothing needs to specifically happen.
Yeah,
it's
I
fine.
prefer not writing jokes because they just pop into your head.
Yes.
Like literally the other night, I was just Damo was here, he was emceeing, and we were having a chat backstage, and a joke just popped into my head, and it was whenever I take a selfie, it looks like a dick pic. That's why I never video myself sneezing. And I literally was walking on
thought
stage,
of that?
and I just thought of that when I was coming on stage, and I went, I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to get you banned in Australia. This is unacceptable.
But that's for me, it's far more interesting. I mean, I'm writing 2 plays at the moment. I've got the first draft of both of them done, and well, no, one of them done, and the other one is halfway. And I prefer that sort of writing because it's more structured. Because the joke just comes and goes. You don't know where it's ever going. So to sit down and write comedy, unless you have a particular routine you want to achieve, then I can do that. But for the likes of a play or something, it's got a structure. You know, it's got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yeah, I find that easier to write. That sort of comes out of me much easier than a joke. A joke just sort of has to pop into my head for me to feel it valid. If you try to force a joke, I don't think it works.
Yes. And when you're walking around now, you have that filter on, and you sort of the jokes are coming in and out. And you said you love the immediacy of like a great gig, and when those moments do happen, what are the bad gigs like for you, Ian? I mean, I suppose when you have so many tools on the tool belt, you can go into storytelling, you can go into one-liners, you can go into the crowd work, you've got a bit of improv.
Well, I think...
what does a bad gig look like?
Well, for a comedian to have a bad gig, I think we always blame something. It's never our fault.
Anything but this.
Yeah, no, we blame the room, the lighting, the sound, all of these things. But what I always sort of stress for younger comedians is that for that audience, they don't know. They don't know what you were like yesterday. They don't know what a good venue is. So you always just deliver as best you can under the circumstances that you're given. Because for that audience, they've just gone down the road to have a laugh. And they're having a laugh. So for us to start blaming them for a bad gig is so arrogant and should never happen. And if you are blaming an audience, switch gear, go into a third gear, go into a fourth gear, speed it up, slow it down, tell a story, do some fucking thing. Stop blaming other outside factors, because we have the control on stage and we can make it funnier. But when you start going, this gig isn't going too well, they've paid in, they've come to see a show, make it work.
Where did you learn that? Was that something that you sort of built in your own mind, or was
Yeah,
it comics who...
No, it's my own thoughts.
Yes.
I saw an amazing thing once, and maybe this had it definitely had an influence on me. There's a show in Edinburgh at the Fringe called Late and Live, and it starts at about 1 a.m, and it goes on till about 3:30, and it's raucous and wild. And nowadays it isn't. It's a lot more placid than it used to be, and all the comedians used to go to it in the Gilded Balloon and the old Gilded Balloon. We'd all hang around the bar, and then we'd hear from inside someone go, whoa, and we'd all go in because we knew it's about to kick off. There could be a fight, could be people thrown out. We don't know what's going to happen, but it was wild. So we'd all run in to see this. And there was one night I was in there, and the compere, I can't remember anyone who was on. The compere wasn't very good. The opening act wasn't very good. Nobody was getting anything out of the audience. And then Dom Herrera went on. I've known Dom for fucking years. And I know that he had just flown in that day from America. And Dom went on, and he lifted the roof off the place. So for a very flat gig, and every other comedian would have gone off going, oh, it's a bit shit tonight. He went on and turned it into an amazing show. And he walked off, and he was walking through the bar, and I was there, and I went, Jesus, Dom, that was incredible. And he said, you know yourself, you take a 40-minute set, you squeeze it into 20 minutes. And then I went, all right.
Right.
Now I understand.
So he's a master. He's just been doing it longer, had the tools to be able to... I know what this room needs.
Well, there are some comedians I know who only have like 20 minutes of material. So they can't do that.
Yes.
They can squeeze it into 10 minutes.
Yes.
And but Dom knew the type of material to do, the speed at which to do it, the delivery that room needed. He didn't need to blame anybody. He just went, right, this is what we do, we fix it. And he fixed it. And then I've just learned so much from that one comment.
And that ability comes from just reps. You can't cheat the work. You have to just do hundreds, thousands of gigs.
Exactly.
And fail and figure it out. That wasn't it. That wasn't to be able to identify innately what each gig needs.
Yeah, when I walk into a room, I can read that room straight away, pretty much. And I think most comedians can do that. It baffles me when comedians can't do that. You should be able to do that in any single room. You just walk in and go, and they're going to be a twat. They're going to be fine. It's all okay. The music's too loud, but we'll deal
Isn't
with
it fun though, Ian, when you see someone walk in and then they're like, I reckon these beautiful elderly people are going to love my anal stuff tonight. I reckon I'm going to go deeply into the anal stuff.
Well, then
and
again,
come off and be like, the lighting was horrendous.
and he reminds them of the life they once had, and he deflects, and then he goes back into his material. He's not taking any shit from anybody.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed as well, a device I've just started doing recently is if I do a joke and it gets a groan from the audience, I just say, "Oh, keep groaning, it turns me on," and they stop. So they do it themselves. They think it's part of the show. They go, "Oh," and all of this shit. It doesn't. You don't have to react like that. Like a while ago, people started doing the whoops, like an American audience. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I was in America and they started doing that. And I said, "I stop doing that because you don't naturally do that to respond to anything in life. So just shut the fuck up. You're destroying the jokes." And they stopped.
Sure,
I was
you're educating as well.
Yeah, I was on with Dylan Moran that night, and Dylan said the same thing when he went. Said, "No need for that nonsense. Cut your hoops and just give me one round of applause at the end." And
that was a fantastic Dylan Moran, by the way. That was absolutely flawless.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Aha.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I watch Black Books.
You sometimes have to tell an audience how to behave like an audience.
Is there any goals you have now, Ian, in comedy? Because I know that you've been doing it for a long time. For someone like myself who's early in the journey, there's so much ahead to set these little goals for. But at this point for yourself, I know you're writing plays, you're doing all these different things. What is it that you have that keeps you driving to get better?
I need money. I have to pay the rent. That's the only reason I do it. If I was a millionaire, I wouldn't be doing this.
Motivation of money. Good.
No, obviously I'd like a little bit more recognition, but it's never going to happen because I've got no drive in that direction. So I can't tell people. I mean, I was only talking earlier on. I've never done the Fringe here in Perth because I was going, "Who'd come and see me?" I don't know. I wouldn't appeal to anybody. And, I just don't have that ego, unfortunately. And I know some people who, I would consider lesser comedians are fucking massively famous.
Yes.
But they play the game and they play it they're business people and I'm not. But ultimately, I just love getting up and having a laugh. I do that more with improv than I do with stand-up because you're with other people.
It's more of a shared experience.
Yeah, it's like a game of football. You're just kicking the ball around and you're having a laugh with your mates. Whereas when you're on yourself, you're just going to keep you uppies. Yeah. It's all good fun, but yeah, when you have a good laugh, and that's all my ambition in life is to just have a fucking laugh.
Have a good laugh.
Have a good laugh. Get up on stage, and if it's all improvised, and at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, that's okay. No one's died. Do it again next week.
And if they do die, you bring some licorice all sorts, and you get yourself done. And we've
that
done
makes
a
no
callback
sense
to the
because that
beginning.
probably wasn't filmed.
No, it's going to be in there just so it makes sense at the end. Listen, Ian, I hope more people get to share in the laughter with you, man. You're a maverick, and I feel motivated to get out there and work a little bit harder and try some new things. But while you're in Perth, I know you've got a lovely lady who you're seeing. It's based here in Perth, Western Australia. You're originally from Ireland, but how long are you in town for? Where can people see you? Where can they find you?
This is my last night gigging in Perth.
Great.
So tonight here. When is this going out?
It's going to have to be in the next 15 minutes, I suppose. But if not, can they follow you on any particular social media? Can they?
I'm on social media. It's very easy to find me because it's Ian Coppinger. It's a very unusual name, so I always get my own name on social media. So just Google me. I am there. I don't put stuff up. There's some stuff on YouTube. I didn't put it there, but give it a watch. And I'll be back in March, actually.
Back in March?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the dates. It's like the second week in March I'm here. And then I mean, this goes out all over the world. So I'm in Melbourne Comics Lounge in 2 weeks' time. And then I'm in Dubai for a couple of gigs. And then, I'll be back in March anyway, here in Perth.
Great.
At the Comics Lounge the second week. And, that's
fantastic.
the next time I'm here.
Ian Coppinger, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Blake.
That was lovely.
It was grand.